Okay, so we are recording. The first thing that we ask candidates to do is to introduce themselves and speak a little bit about why they're running and what their platform is, and then we'll get into the questions. So,
Okay.
David, would you like to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, you're good.
Great. Well, thank you, Miss Ellis, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to your organization. My name is David Ellison. I'm really not a politician. I'm just a citizen, just a South Carolinian. I live here in Georgetown, on the outskirts of Georgetown, with my lovely wife, and we have 4 children. 2 are, one's still in college, one's just graduated college from Charles University in Prague, and we have 2 children, a teenager and a tween here with us. So education is not probably, it's the number one point in my platform. I am a Republican, I am a conservative, I am a Christian, I am a veteran. In fact, I'm a retired Air Force officer with a master's degree, and my wife has an elementary ed teaching degree from the College of Charleston. We met at the College of Charleston. And so education obviously is very important to us, as it is to all parents, every parent that I know of in South Carolina. I read a little bit about your organization, and I applaud your efforts to reach out to citizens and to educate them and to put all these issues on the table, because I think it's very important. And so I will say that, my first opening kind of salvo in a positive way is I think teachers are amazing people. I think teachers are the salt of the earth. I think South Carolina's education system needs work. I think we need to remember that parents are the stakeholders. Okay, parents are the customers in a sense. Teachers are the providers, if you will. School system's the provider. So I think sometimes we got to get back to the foundational kind of what is the mission of the state of South Carolina and the counties, individual counties, in terms of education. What is the role of government? And so I've thought about that a lot. I've looked at the South Carolina Constitution. I've read a lot about it. And it's pretty clear that government definitely has a role. It has a big role. But my campaign's position is very clear. It's that the bottom line is it's not the government's job to educate or indoctrinate children. It's the government's job to create, and it's the government's mission to create an equal opportunity and provide resources for educators, especially financial resources, so that especially parents can have the financial freedom to educate. Does that mean that I want to do away with the public school system? Absolutely not. I'm a product of the government school system. I graduated from Richmond Northeast High School, went to Heathwood Hall private school up until about 8th grade. And so I'm all for public education, but more importantly, I'm for education in general, which that word, if we peel the onion back, and this will be my last opening comment, is the word means to bring forth discipline, to bring forth leadership, to bring forth academics. That word educate means we got to bring that out of our kids. And so parents are the stakeholders, not the government. And so parents need to be the focus. What are the outcomes parents are looking for? Doesn't mean teachers aren't important, but when I read a lot of the literature, it seems to be very teacher-centric, and it needs to be a bit more parent-centric and a bit more child-centric. So again, my campaign is all about making education great again. It's about making literacy great again. We can talk about a little bit later why the literacy rates are going down, not up. We can talk about why at one time America had the #1 literacy rate in the world. Now, if you look at the 20 developed countries in the world, where's America? Where's the US system located? It's at number 20 out of 20. So we can't accept that. And it's not the teacher's fault. It's the system's fault. Teachers are wonderful. Administrators are wonderful. I'm all about giving parents financial freedom to educate their children, and that will create a situation where a rising tide lifts all boats. So teachers should want competition in education more than anybody, because if little Johnny's being disruptive, if little Billy's being disruptive, if little Susie's being disruptive, and we know we have some kids that are disruptive, and oftentimes it's oftentimes something that's happening at home or whatever the situation is. It could be something in the classroom. It could be bullying. Could be that we need to talk about why tweens are committing suicide in South Carolina. So the largest cause of death in South Carolina for our tweens is suicide. So all these factors are why I want parents more in control of those dollars. I want teachers at the table. I want administrators at the table. I want teachers associations at the table. At the end of the day, we gotta give parents the tools back in their toolkit, and we gotta let parents decide whether Johnny's better off at going to a public school or a private school or a parochial school or a homeschool. And parents need to have their taxpayer dollars back in their control, not bureaucrats in Columbia. So that's my opening salvo. And again, thanks for this wonderful opportunity.
Okay, great. Thank you. So Lieutenant Colonel Ellison, I'm going to mute you. So I'm muted Mr. Collins while you were speaking. And so I'm going to mute you while he is speaking. But Mr. Collins, I think you're going to have to unmute yourself. Can you do that? There should be a red microphone or a white microphone that you can click on.
I got it.
Okay.
Got it? Okay.
Okay, so Mr. Collins, same question to you. You know, a little bit of who you are and what your platform is, or what your interests are in terms of running for office.
Okay. Good afternoon to the South Carolina for Ed organization. Ms. Ellis, I'm grateful for this opportunity that you presented to me to be able to speak to your organization, as well as educators and educator supporters. My platform is jobs, education, and poverty alleviation. My name presented on the ballot will be Dr. Manley Collins. I presented my whole name because majority of people do know me as Marvell. I've been raised in the Pineville, South Carolina area. I went to Berkeley County School, Cross High. I attended and graduated from South Carolina State University, which is one of the leading teaching educating institutions and producing teachers for the school system. Let's see. I believe, teachers have helped me be able to become the person that I am today. And I do support a lot of different issues of improving the education system. Understanding pay is a major issue of retaining and keeping educators as well as staff supporters. I understand there are issues as, I guess, times have changed from corporal punishment to being able to support new forms of discipline for all the different types of students that we come across in the new generation of students. And not only that, just making sure that we have various avenues supporting, educating students, whether it's public, private, or charter schools, as long as the child is able to learn. And I am a big supporter of that. And again, my support system, I'm a single bachelor. I have lots of, I guess, nieces, nephews, siblings, aunts, uncles, teammates, colleagues, peers, acquaintances, cousins, a lot of people that are there that are supportive of me. They're not only here in South Carolina, but domestically and globally. My hometown is Washington, D.C. That's my birthplace, but I'm glad to be a part of South Carolina's family, to be able to come work and be able to perform as your South Carolina State Senate District 32, which represents the Horry, Berkeley, Florence, Georgetown, and Williamsburg counties. And I'm just looking forward to, my tagline is, can I have your vote, please? And we can go on from there.
Great. Did you say that you were Dr. Collins? I want to make sure that I'm addressing y'all correctly during this. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm Dr. Collins. Yes.
Okay. And you're Lieutenant Colonel Ellison, is that correct? Okay. So, Dr. Collins, we'll go ahead and throw the first question out to you, and then once you're finished, we'll switch back. So the first question is, what is your opinion of the state of public education in South Carolina today?
My opinion of the state of South Carolina as a substitute teacher, a part of the system, I believe it needs to be a little bit more improved, not only the environment itself, the school infrastructures, as well as being able to provide the funding to be able to balance the learning between audio, video learners, as well as being able to read about not for all of their various subjects. High stakes testing is a major factor in placing students where they need to be, and not only in South Carolina, but going forward into their future. So I believe the state of South Carolina system needs to be improved, as well as being able to provide the avenues for educators to be able to continue to support the system. Hopefully we can retain them in improving that, and hopefully continue to have town halls and help me be able to write bills to be able to support your, not only your agenda, but also other educator support groups as well, being able to work with them as well, and being able to get across McMaster's, desk. These are what's important to the educators that are out in the field, and being able to provide that to them.
Okay, thank you. Lieutenant Colonel Ellison, if you want to unmute yourself to answer the question. So do you want me to repeat the question? Oh, you're still muted.
How about now?
Okay. So the question is, what is your opinion of the state of public education in South Carolina today?
I think it needs improvement. On a scale, I think statistics kind of speak for themselves. I already kind of alluded to it, but if you look at how much money, and you hate to talk about money so much, but you have to. It takes money to pay teachers. It takes money to educate children. It takes money to do anything, pretty much. The money can't buy love. It can buy an education. And so we're spending about $14,000 a year. I listened to some of the other candidates speak and that have been recorded on your website, and that number never really came out. It blows parents' mind. It blows most citizens' minds when you tell them in South Carolina we're spending around $13,000 a year in some counties like Williamsburg County, which is part of my district, which includes Georgetown County, approximately 2/3 of Georgetown County, all of Williamsburg County, a sliver of Florence County around Lake City, St. Stephen in Berkeley County, and then all the way over to the outskirts of Conway and Horry County. So that's a large swath of real estate. But when you look at what's happening in some of the poor school districts like Williamsburg County, they're entitled to up to $17,000, a little under $17,000. But the problem with that school district is they didn't have all their ducks in a row in 2018. And what happened? So this is an example of what's the state of education? Well, Williamsburg County is a microcosm of it. They are in the bottom 1% of the entire state of South Carolina. Why? Because according to Ms. Spearman, Molly, the superintendent of education out of Columbia, she said they failed in 3 ways. Number one, they were mismanaging their budget so badly they didn't get all their paperwork in or their ducks in a row, so that the state didn't give them the close to $17,000. Well, when administrators are crying out for more money, but yet leadership in that school district can't get all their ducks in a row to get the money, that is a complete failure. They ended up only getting 70% of their budget that year of county, state, and federal money. And as you know, federal is only about 9%. The other are roughly, 40 and 45, give or take. The other point is that Williamsburg County is they just were not meeting standards. They just weren't meeting academic standards. And so the state of education in most school districts, especially in the PD and low country area, is not good. I mean, for example, this year, or was it last year, a year or so ago, the graduation rate in Hemingway High School was 93%. It was over 90%. But yet when they gave the end of course exam, the U.S. history exam and the U.S. Constitution exam, that I think everybody would agree most high school seniors need to know something about U.S. history and something about the U.S. Constitution. But only 12% pass, Ms. Ellis. Only 12. Let me say it again. Only 12% of the high school seniors passed the test. But yet they socially promoted 90-some% of them. That is a complete breakdown, and we can't sugarcoat that. So, is it all about teacher pay? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that teachers are great, but we got to go back to what's the purpose of education, and it is to give the K through 12 children the opportunity, equal opportunity, and the freedom to go to whatever school parents deem fit, not what Columbia or the school district or any other government employee says a child needs to go to. And then the last thing Williamsburg County did is they misallocated over $600,000 that were supposed to go to special needs children. So here we have special needs children in Williamsburg County, and the money's not getting to the program. So it added insult to injury. And so, of course, the whole, they had the superintendent was fired, the elected school board was fired. And my opponent had appointed two of those school board members, appointed, notice I didn't say elected, through his delegation. Now, that's a long-winded answer. So the system in South Carolina needs to be reformed, but we can't reform it with just throwing money at it. That is the total wrong answer. We got to be specific. And so specifically, I tell you what I'll do. I'll wait, and I think hopefully you'll ask me what I would do to improve it, or I can do that now. Whatever you like, Ms. Ellis. I can wait or give you what my plan is to improve it.
Well, that's the next question, and you're up to answer it first. So if you want to go ahead and do that. So the next question is, if elected, what would be the first step you would take to improve public education?
Well, that's a great question. Thanks for asking. I would go back to the fundamentals. I played quite a bit of sports as a young person, and my best coaches and my best teachers, for that matter, always said, let's focus on the fundamentals. Okay. In education, the first fundamental is to remember what our national motto is, for crying out loud. If a teacher can't tell little Johnny or little Susie in class that the national motto is "In God We Trust," and in particular, if a Christian teacher, usually a female, can't say that the most important thing in her life, if she happens to be a Christian, is her faith, without getting her hand slapped, and if another teacher can't give a moral lesson about right and wrong, about why it's important that young people have to be disciplined and led. As a retired military member, discipline is hugely important. It's not just important to the military, as you know, Miss Ellis. It's important for young people. To tell a young man, a young boy, you got to find your own way. You got to come up with your own moral compass. That is a total failure in the education system, to say that a young person has to figure out their own moral compass. No, we need to be smart enough as adults to tell our young people especially, this is what's right. This is historically what's led to success. And this historically has led to ruination. So to throw a young person in a public school system and not be able to talk about morality and ethics from a Judeo-Christian standpoint, you can see why so many parents in South Carolina and across the country have little to no confidence in sending them in a system that is basically raising human secularists. That is a total travesty of everything we stand for. And so that's number one. We got to get back to the fundamentals. And my analogy is, if you throw a child in a chemistry lab and say, you figure out how to handle all these elements and all these substances and all these chemicals, and then we'll come back to you and see how you come out. That's basically what we do with a lot of children. What's wrong with telling a child, don't have sex until you get married? Why should that be a controversial statement? What's wrong with telling a child, that the reason why America is the greatest country on the face of earth is because we believe in a strong Judeo-Christian work ethic and values. I hear stories of teachers, because what's in a person's heart will eventually come out. What's in my heart will eventually come out, just like I'm kind of pouring my heart out right now. It's going to come out at some point. What's in a teacher's heart will come out. And so if you ask a young person that graduates from a South Carolina public school, are you more of a socialist or are you more of a conservative? What are they going to say? The overwhelming majority identify more with socialism. Now, that you say, well, we shouldn't get political. Why not? That's just a worldview that's being propagated in the system when Americanism should be propagated, when what's made America great should be propagated. Socialism is the ruination of a nation, of a country. But yet we have too many teachers that don't get Americanism, that don't get what made America great. And so there's a way to talk about American history without being political. And I see too many kids that come out of the system and they've got an ideology versus learning history. And we should talk about all the controversial and all the sad things in our history, to include slavery, to include who was for slavery and who wasn't. If I ask the average student, I encourage you to do this, Miss Ellis, if you haven't. I encourage your organization to ask the average middle schooler and high schooler, what political party was Abraham Lincoln a member of? I can guarantee you that most of them won't know. And the ones that do know will say Democrat. And that is a problem because too many people don't understand that my party happens to be the party of freedom. The party that I represent is the party of school choice. The party I represent is the party of academic freedom. It's the party of the Emancipation Proclamation. If children don't understand their history, they will make poor decisions in the ballot box. And so that's why I'm so for school choice, giving parents now. If a parent wants to send their child to an all socialist, atheist, un-American school, you know what? School choice will allow that. School choice will allow people of like-minded, people can get together and say, I want this school to be of this type of ideology, more focused on politics than reading, writing, and math. And if they want to do that, well, that's their right. I doubt too many parents would take that choice. But if a school system wants to focus on STEM and science, technology, engineering, and math, and they want to focus on a Judeo-Christian worldview, why shouldn't parents have that right? Why should a parent be forced to send their child to a program that tends to take God out of the equation, that tends to take prayer out of the equation? And so I think we've seen over the last 70 years, 60 years, when we've taken Judeo-Christian values and morality, and we've taken teacher-led prayer. Yeah, I said teacher-led prayer. There's nothing wrong with a teacher praying. And when we've taken that out, then we've gone down a rabbit hole, or a rabbit trail rather, that's not been good. So that's a long-winded question. And so some might say, well, you're trying to push your religion on people. No. School choice is not pushing religion on people. School choice is giving parents the opportunity, if they want to send their child to a parochial school, a church school, a private school, a secular school, an atheist school, that's that parent's right. And that's where we're missing the boat, because we're doing the current system is a one size fit all. So to summarize, I'm for number one, reminding all staff members that our national motto is "In God We Trust." If we can't talk about morality and God in the classroom, we've failed right off the bat. Number two, I'm for giving parents the clear freedom, financial freedom. Give parents that over $10,000 in an education savings account, not a voucher. A voucher is a four-letter word, as you know, in so many circles. I've read some of the comments, but give them that education savings account. Give them that tax credit. Give them that GI Bill that I had. I'm a product of the GI Bill, and it didn't hurt me too much. I could go to any college I could get accepted into. The same, if it's good for a military member, it should be good for a child and a parent. And let freedom ring throughout South Carolina. Florida's done it. When you go on the edchoice.org, when you go on that website, you'll see that many, many states are doing financial educational freedom, giving parents the tools, and it takes a year or two to take root. Okay, it's not some magic panacea, but after parents are educated and oh, by the way, one of the first things I hear, Miss Ellis, is so many teachers say, "Well, I can't teach my class because I got disruptive kids." Well, thank you. Nobody likes a disruptive environment, but what's the solution to a disruptive environment? It's school choice. because that teacher, after 3 strikes or 1 strike, depending on the magnitude or the severity of the infraction, Miss Smith can say, you know what, little Johnny, I'm going to have to call the principal. I'm going to have to call your parents. You've been disruptive from day one. And so we're going to send you down, or we're going to tell your parents that we got a boot camp down the street there. There's a great program. It's being run by a retired military member, not this one. And we will make sure that you get the discipline you need. Because here's the other part, Miss Ellis, is that why are males graduating at a 10 to 15% less rate? That's just the statistics. When I go on the website and I see the numbers, it's a 10 or 15% less graduation rate for males. That's across the board. That's across every demographic, Hispanic, African American, across the board. Why is that? Because we're trying to cookie cutter males are more challenging. Okay, somebody out there should say amen about that. Males can be more challenging because they require a bit more, discipline sometimes. That shouldn't be controversial to say that boys and girls, male and females, are different. To try to teach a male the exact same way we're going to teach a female is just wrong. And I think the proof's in the pudding. And make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it. Biologically, males and females are different. Last time I checked, a male has a X and Y chromosome. A female has, last time I checked in my biology class, I took a long time. I think they told me females have 2 X chromosomes. Why in the world would the teachers' unions, which we don't have in South Carolina, thank God, we have superintendent unions, I hear, but why in the world would teachers think it's okay for a biological male to run track against a biological female in a public school system? I mean, is it okay to ask a question in this forum? It's not a debate, but I would love an answer from a teacher's standpoint. Why would anybody think it's okay for a biological male to compete in sports, especially track and field, and steal a scholarship from a biological female? That might be her only opportunity to go to college.
Well, this is, I appreciate that, and we can happily have that discussion at another time. But I think we need to sort of stick to the questions, and I'm not sure where Dr. Collins went, so maybe he'll pop back.
I mean, I think I will be quiet. But I think those issues are important because we're seeing it happen all across the country, and if we don't think about them now and have answers now, and let parents know what the administrators are going to do, I think it's a big time foul. Again, it's taxpayer money, and if taxpayer money is going to fund a transgender experiment on a child, a young girl that's been training perhaps half her life or more than half to steal her college scholarship, that needs to be discussed. That is a K through 12 issue that seems like we don't want to talk about, but it's very critical. So I'll just leave it there because make no mistake about it, if it happens in California or up north, it will end up happening in South Carolina.
Okay, so I guess I'll just go ahead and move on to the next question and go from there. So, and you talked a little bit about this, but just I want to give you an opportunity to speak specifically to it. If elected, what would you do to address the funding of public education?
Well, I mean, I think that in the famous words of Jerry Maguire, what is it? Show me the money. And that's what, as a parent, I'm speaking as a parent now. I want to be in charge of those dollars. The dollars should follow the children, not the other way around. Right now, children follow the dollars. That is a total backwards socialist way of doing things. Wherever that child goes to school, and we can have a philosophical discussion whether the school needs to meet the standards of some sort of accreditation. I'm all for accreditation. Again, the GI Bill requirement was the GI could go to any school that's accredited, okay? Any college, any university. So, but then you got to decide who's doing then you have to figure out who is responsible for accreditation. But the point is, I'm in favor of that parent, that K through 12 parent or grandparent or guardian saying, little Billy, I want little Billy to stay in the public school. Great. He gets to stay in Georgetown High School. That $13,000, $14,000 in Georgetown is probably a little bit higher because we're a little bit poorer than some of the other counties. That money will stay with Billy. But the next year, if Billy's mom says, no, you know what, Billy, even though he had a great teacher or great teachers, I feel I want to try the private school down the road. That should be that parent's right. And teachers, it really boggles the mind, Miss Ellis, when a teacher opposes school choice to think that they're the only ones that are entitled that can teach that child. That is, I mean, you know, that is elitism 101. You don't have to have a rocket science degree to teach a middle schooler. You don't even have to have an elementary education degree. My wife has an elementary education degree, and she would be the first to say that she's proud of her degree, but it doesn't take an elementary ed degree to teach, you know, young children. Now, the older children get, the higher the levels of education, we want to specialize. And that's the beautiful thing about choice is the quality teachers that everybody wants. Guess what? Supply and demand, economics 101, their salaries will go through the roof. The teachers that parents don't want, they might have to look themselves in the mirror and say, nobody wants to come to my class. I wonder why. Maybe I'm not cut out to be a teacher. And we have to be able to say that as a legislator, as a grown adult. We have to look at some people and say, you are not cut out to be a teacher. Not every teacher in the system is cut out to be a teacher. I think everybody should have a right to apply. I think everybody should have an equal playing field. But some teachers in the system have no business being a teacher. Their calling is perhaps doing something else. And that sounds a little bit tough, but that's reality. I was in a teachers meeting. I was at Georgetown High School not too long ago. One of your other candidates mentioned, I think it was one of these senators had a South Carolina Senate kind of roadshow where they went out around the state and teachers were talking about their salary and this and that. Well, there was hardly any parents at these meetings. It was mainly teachers. And I heard time and time again where teachers would say things like, if I don't get a pay raise, I'm leaving. And then another teacher would say, why is a electrical engineer making 3 times more money than I am? And, you know, for a teacher to ask that question, it either shows a level of not understanding, you know, supply and demand, or it shows just, you know, somebody who feels entitled that their salary gets raised up times 3. My recommendation for the funding is the teachers that are in demand, their salaries go up, whether they're 24 years old or 44 years old or 54 years old or 64 years old. The teachers that parents want to send their kids to, they will make more money. The teachers that the parents don't want to send their kids to will not make much money. I think that's a beautiful system. And, you know, and so one size fits all. Right now in South Carolina, we have a monopoly. We have a system that's run by, and it's a textbook definition of it, it's run by the government. No other, unless you're a special needs child, unless you're a precious special. And oh, by the way, my other principle that I got to say that I really feel strong about is all children deserve to be treated like they're made in the image of God. All children are special. All children, you know, regardless of background, skin color, economic status, they're all special. But why in South Carolina, and this is a statistic I've never heard at a teachers meeting, why in South Carolina is it that only 49% of African-American males, only 49%, Ms. Ellis, of African-American males that start the 9th grade actually graduate in South Carolina? Is that a true statistic? I'm just asking because I've asked I've got that off the internet, off the Schott Foundation, off the Black Lives Matter website, and they say 49% of African American males that start 9th grade don't graduate. In your learned opinion, being in the education, is that a true number?
I don't know that I can speak to that statistic. I do know that you know, that has been an area that has been a demographic that has struggled. So I'd have to look at the research to see. So.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, if you have time, I mean, I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's all I was going to say. I just have to look.
Yeah. If you have time, and after we get offline, if you could research that, I really would appreciate it. That's the number I got off a credible, you know, foundational website. I've asked South Carolina Department of Education to validate that number, confirm it or deny it, and all I heard was crickets. So I'm going with that number because I've asked teachers about it, and they seem to indicate, well, that sounds about right. It's nobody's proud of that numbers, but it's a number that's not much higher for other demographic males. You know, and again, there's an old saying that Mark Twain had that you know, we can make figures lie and liars figure. So, you know, I wish the system would be kind of courageous enough to admit when it's failing. I wish the system would say, let's go all the way back to first grade students. Out of every first grade student that makes its way through the system, and most of our seniors in South Carolina started, in middle school or earlier, why is nobody tracking that number? I asked, so what is the graduation rate? Not the graduation rate of somebody that starts the 12th grade, Miss Ellis. Once you're in 12th grade, you got a good chance of graduating. I don't care whether you're male, female, what your ethnicity is. There's a very strong chance you're going to graduate if you made it to 12th grade. But that's not the number we should be tracking. I mean, we should be tracking, what about people that enter the school system in first grade, in 8th grade, at a minimum, the kids that start 9th grade. Why do teachers not talk about that number? It almost seems like I was a bureaucrat. I was a military bureaucrat. I say that affectionately. I try not to act like one, but I was. If we can't whistleblow on ourselves or call our own selves out, what good are we? When I was a parent of 2 kids still, school age kids, why would I want to send my kid into a system that's failing and the teachers and the administrators don't want to talk about why it's failing or don't even want to admit there's a problem? That's the number one reason I'm running for Senate District 32, because I feel that the adult leadership is not acting like adult leadership. I believe that if you've got less than half or approximately half of a certain demographic group that's not even graduating, and you're not going to come up with a get well plan that makes sense, why would I want to put my child in that situation? I got 2 boys. I got 2 males. I got a daughter and 3 boys. Like I said, my daughter is in college right now, doing well. But the point is, why would a parent have any confidence in a system that doesn't acknowledge, the 12-step process? Before you get well, you got to at least identify there's a problem. The only problem I hear from teachers basically is low pay. The other problem that I hear is teachers need to have the freedom of speech. I wrote this down because a former teacher said this on your website. I want to have the freedom of speech, the Freedom of Speech Act, to be able to open my mouth up and criticize public policy. Well, good for her. Good for her. Then she should be the biggest proponent of school choice. She should be the biggest proponent of school choice if her belief is, I want to open my mouth and get political in the classroom and speak out against public policy. Well, guess what? If I was a public school teacher, I'd want to talk about my faith. But the minute I start talking about my faith, what's going to happen? That's a rhetorical question, but I'll stop right there, Miss Ellis. I don't want to drone on, so I'll stop right there and say, what would happen if I opened my mouth and said, you know what, Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior, and He really has led me to be the man who I am today, and He really has encouraged me to get a good education. And oh, by the way, Jesus teaches people to respect authority, respect their teachers. Would that be okay for me to say in a classroom? And then to go on and say why Jesus is my Lord and Savior? If I said that in your classroom, what would happen to me? Again, it's a rhetorical question, but I throw it out there.
Well, that's all we've got for you, and I want to thank you so much for taking the time to answer our questions and sort of put out your platform in reference to education. So what we'll do is we'll get this up on our website, and we're trying to get as many up before we sort of say that we've got them. But thank you so much for taking the time tonight. I'm going to go ahead and hit stop recording if that's okay.
Can I just, yes, ma'am. Can I just close on one quote?
Sure.
I got just one quote, and I do appreciate your time. And I know that I realize that there's probably not kind of hardcore conservatives that have kind of articulated some of these positions. But this is what I would like to quote from a famous educator, and it just takes a second to read. Just a minute. He says, there is no God and no soul. Hence, there are no needs for props of tradition of religion, with dogma and creed excluded. Then immutable truth is also dead and buried. There is no room for fixed natural law or permanent absolutes. Teaching children to read is a great perversion of a high literacy rate because it breeds destructive individualism. The child does not go to school to develop individual talents, but rather be prepared as units in an organic society. The change in the moral school atmosphere are not mere accidents. They are the necessities of the larger social evolution. And that is written, and to quote directly from the father of modern education, John Dewey. So I think the current system has has followed his model to the T. And so we need a total reform. We need to give parents choice. Let the dollars follow the children. Let the parents decide where the kids go. Again, whether public school, government school, charter school, church school, parochial school, or homeschool. Let the parents decide. I think in a short matter of years, a few years, we would see a massive increase in education. We would see test scores aren't everything, but single moms and single dads want school choice. If you run the numbers, they want school choice more than anybody because they know the value of helping their kids, especially ones that are troubled. The school choice will bring financial freedom for parents. So again, thank you for your time and thanks for letting me speak. Let me just leave this. If anybody wants to know more about my campaign, they can send me an email at info@ellisonforstatesenate.com. They can go to Facebook. That's David Ellison for State Senate, District 32, or they can go to my website, which is www.ellisonforstatesenate.com. And thanks again, Ms. Ellis, and appreciate your time and all the good work you're doing.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.